Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Insurance Experts. I'm so excited to have my friend on the line, Jay Judas. We actually met on LinkedIn, but I found some of his stories and strategies so fascinating that we wanted to do a video together here. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in the insurance industry?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm what I like to call a recovering attorney. So I started out as an attorney, and then I went to work for a life insurance company. And so at the life insurance company, I was what they would call an advanced sales attorney. Someone who gives advice on executive benefit strategies or estate planning strategies, things where there was a life insurance sale involved. And after doing that for a number of years, I was promoted into the company's Bermuda unit. And I spent about 15 years at a couple of Bermuda units writing US style life insurance products on very wealthy people all over the world. So it's very much, somebody that's in China that banks in Hong Kong, or somebody in Africa that banks in the Middle East. So exciting stuff. And in the last few years, I got into private placement life insurance. So I was a partner in the leading private placement group of companies, which deals with even wealthier people, both in the US and around the world. So definitely, some very complex areas, but really pretty exciting.
Wow, and I guess it's fun to go to Bermuda every now and again, huh?
Yeah, people say that. I grew up in Iowa, and so my town in Iowa has about 70,000 people, and so does Bermuda. So a little, after you go there enough, it's sort of like a small town where everybody knows your business. But ask me again in February, and I'll say I want to be in Bermuda.
Very cool. So do you work with personal clients currently?
Yes, yeah. So at Life Insurance Strategies Group, we don't sell product, but we're a consulting and advisory firm. So we have services that we offer life insurance companies, producers, advisors, and the end client. And with the end client, it's a lot of people that need help with sort of structuring these complex foreign national or U.S. nexus situations, or maybe they're thinking about private placement. And so we help them make those decisions. Is there an insurance solution or not? And maybe there isn't one.
Right. So that's very cool. So you get to assess the client's needs. I know you told me about a recent case that you had worked on. Why don't you share with us a little bit about those clients?
Right. So these are the Chews, right? Which obviously that's not their real names. But these were clients that they were both 45, husband and wife, 45 years of age, with some teenagers. And they lived in China. And they were thinking or considering, or actually, I think at that point, they were committed to moving to the U.S. And what they did is they run a big clothing operation. So they have a factory in that Pearl River area. And so that's where a lot of the factories are in China, where goods and services come to the U.S. So in addition to this big factory and some other wealth, they had private bank accounts in Hong Kong with about $50 million in them. And they were telling their attorney, we'd like to get over to the U.S. within the next 2 years. We want to set up a corporate office in New York where we can sort of take advantage of the global marketplace, New York being that way. And so the Chews came to their attorney, with this decision, and the attorney came to us because he remembered there's something I should be doing with these clients before they're U.S. people or U.S. taxpayers, but help us.
Right. So what exactly did you design for them? What type of strategy were you thinking of?
Yeah. So let's think about, maybe we'll reverse it and think about, if like you and I as Americans, and we were to do planning, and if we had a lot of money and we didn't want it to be taxed at our death, we could move that money into an irrevocable trust. Okay. And by irrevocable, I mean a trust that we don't control any longer, that a trustee controls. But in the U.S., the government limits how much you and I can move into one of those trusts. And so right now there's a personal exemption amount of $11,400,000. So a husband and wife or any married couple can just do just under 23 million. So that's limiting. Well, let's think about the Chews. They have 50 million. And so you're thinking, well, gosh, if they were to do what we did, that's going to leave a big chunk of money outside of the trust and in their estate.
Right.
But there's sort of a rule in the treasurer that the IRS has a rule that says you can move unlimited amounts of money from a non-U.S. person to a U.S. person without any gift tax.
Wow, it sounds a little bit backwards, right? Usually, they favor U.S. citizens. Why does the government allow you to do this with non-U.S. citizens?
Yeah, so you think, right, you're like, oh, this is really a great treat from the Treasury Department. They're being super nice. So as an example, if you had a parent in South America and they wanted to give you $50 million, well, they could. And in the US, gift tax is assessed on the giver. Well,
Mm,
obviously, if that person's not a US taxpayer, there's no gift tax. But however, when that money comes to you, Mark, well, now it's in your estate, right? So when you die, you're going to be left holding that, and the government gets its bite of the apple. And that's what's important here is the government can say, look, hey, foreign person, send as much money as you want into the U.S., no problem, but we're going to get it sooner or later.
right. So how does the irrevocable life insurance trust match up with this foreign national situation that you had?
Yeah. Exactly. So they have this $50 million in liquidity at the private bank. And what they want to do is before they become U.S. taxpayers, and that means before they get a green card, before they stay here for a certain number of days over a 3-year period, that's what we call the substantial presence test. So
Hmm.
before they become subject to U.S. taxes, and I can't say that enough because a lot of these clients just think, oh, I'm going to maybe get a green card or hang out in the U.S. for a while and it's no big deal, and it is. So again, before they would become U.S. people, it's important that they move as much wealth as they can ahead of themselves, put it into an irrevocable trust, and then it's out of their estate when they get here. So in a few years when they get here, they'll say, oh gosh, I don't have that 50 million in my estate any longer. It won't be taxed at my death.
Wow. I mean, this is a fascinating, almost like a new world that I didn't even know existed, where there's planning for foreign nationals and with U.S. life insurance.
Yeah. So, well, let's get to the life insurance part, right? Because that's the
Yeah.
exciting part. So Fred, I think you're asking, geez, this seems like a loophole that the U.S. would say, wait a minute, you're transferring all this money into the trust, and we sort of talked about gift tax, and there is another rule here. The U.S. says, look, if it looks like you're transferring the bulk of your wealth into this trust,
Mhm.
and that you can't possibly live off of anything that's outside of the trust, then we're going to just say this is a sham transaction and not allow it. We're going to tax you. Well, here, remember the Chews, they have a lot of wealth outside of that money. They have their factories in China. They'll have their salaries and their operation in New York. So it looked pretty secure. So now this money's in the trust, this
Mhm.
50 million. And it would be just like if you and I had gifted our, 22.8 million or whatever into the trust. And the next question is, well, what do we do now? There's really high taxes in the trust. Whatever you're invested in, the government says, look, here's your 40% or whatever tax rate.
Mhm.
Well, what's a good efficient vehicle to put money into? And that's life insurance. That's life.
That makes
So at
sense.
that point, it becomes no difference than if you and I were doing the planning,
Mhm.
inside of our trusts.
Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing this story with us. I'm sure we're going to talk about some more foreign national insurance strategies in the future. So I really appreciate your time being on the call.
Oh, Mark, this is great. Look, yeah, and certainly, anytime that I can be a help in that area, just let me know.
I will. I will. Take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.